Welcome to another episode of the Dentology podcast, where we discuss the business of dentistry. In this podcast series, we'll be discussing all the non-clinical aspects of dentistry, from goodwill values, finance, marketing, how to buy and sell a dental practice, mindset, through to where you can invest your money in team management issues. My name is Andy Acton, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Strevens. Let's jump straight into it. Some stories of people's life stories are just remarkable, aren't they?
I think it's just yet another one. You know, we always say, don't we, that when we say to our guests, we're not really going to talk about business. We're not really going to talk about your business. We're going to talk about you. And Lottie's another example of, yet again, stuff that you wouldn't know unless you talk to her.
But really has built in her a resilience. There's a real strength and a resilience as well. But wrapped around a real deep interest in people.
Yeah, I got out the fact that she's not a passenger. You know,
No.
She wants to be driving. Yeah, you know, in the fact of she identifies some of her issues and then looks how to cure those, rectify them, whatever that you want.
But
to
also,
say.
I loved her idea around sustainability and talking about the little tips
I think
that
that's
she
clever.
has
I was
to
thinking
help people.
we
And
should
just-
do that in the office.
I was going to say just some of those small things, and you know, if you can get a few people, that turns into a few hundred, 1,000, 1 million people all doing a few small things, it adds up.
Pebbles in a pond, in it. Or something.
Yeah,
Excellent.
no, a very enjoyable conversation.
Yeah, it's really good.
So today we are joined by Lottie Manahan, which we are so excited to have a chat to Lottie.
Oh, we are indeed.
Her life and her career.
That would be fascinating.
So far, which would be great.
Interesting. So far, she's only very young. It's quite interesting, isn't it? You know, it's like she's like some 80-year-old woman.
No, not at all, not at all. So Lottie's a dental hygienist and therapist. Goes by the name Teeth by Lottie, if anybody follows Lottie online. A key opinion leader for Oral-B, Swiss Dental Academy trainer for EMS, and also a sustainability ambassador in dentistry, which would be good to have a chat about that, because that's becoming more and more important.
And even with the bank, when we were talking to Lloyd's Bank, they're
Exactly.
promoting sustainability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And as Mr. Attenborough says, we still have time, so we should talk about that.
We
Welcome,
do.
Lottie. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Very good. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
we are
Very good indeed. I've drunk my tea, so I might have to go and get another one. No, seriously.
Yeah.
Just feeling very relaxed, very mellow.
Oh, good. That's good.
To kick off, Lottie, before we get to kind of you and your upbringing, on the times that I've met you or whenever we've spoken, you strike me as an exceptionally happy person. Your disposition is you're bright and happy. What makes you happy? What is it that you get up in the morning and you smile and you're happy? Where does that come from? Because not everyone's like that.
No. Some
Not
people have a
everybody's
faces like a bulldog tuna wasp.
Yes.
I think is a politer way, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I need my coffee first in the morning. Don't ever... Do you know, a patient last week, I was late because of trains, and he was like, oh, I'm not going to come because she'll have to have her coffee before she treats me. So let's just cancel it and read
Oh,
it.
really?
I was like, yeah. No, I need a coffee in the morning. But no, I think being happy is really important. And I've always been like that. Life's not been that easy, actually, but I always try and find the best in everything. I think it's really important, and maybe that's why I get on well with my patients. I am, but you know, when you come up and you're like this bubbly person, there's always a down as well. So I like a lot of time on my own to recharge.
Okay.
But yeah,
Right, yeah.
I do like to present myself as a happy person. It's important.
I think it rubs off on people as well. I think when you're around people that have good energy and people who are happy, kind of regardless of the day you're having, you do get dragged along with that as a
It's
mood.
infectious, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, you know, when you're somewhere and people are laughing, you know, sometimes you can be laughing at things. You've absolutely no idea what anyone's laughing at.
No,
But
you-
it's
you-
quite
but you're
entertaining,
enjoying
yeah.
the laugh.
But you're just enjoying the laugh, yeah.
Yeah. But we'll get to the dentistry bit in a minute, and I know that you kind of were inspired when you were just sort of 15 to kind of explore the hygienist route. But going back before that, what was your childhood like? What was you as a kid?
Yeah, I grew up in rural Shropshire, so on a farm in the middle of nowhere. Really lovely upbringing. My mum was an accountant. My dad was a complete entrepreneur. He was a joiner, builder, everything, carpenter, everything. Just like really grounded guy. Went bankrupt at 18. So he said he couldn't marry my mum because they needed different names so you could put things on credit. And like a really like, I never
a proper entrepreneur.
Yeah, that is entrepreneurial, isn't it? Man, oh man.
Yeah, they never got married. But just like really, grounded upbringing. I remember, I wasn't spoilt as a child with like gifts and things, but definitely with their time. And my mum,
which is the greatest gift they can give.
Yeah,
really,
exactly. My mum was quite funny with me. Like she'd always dangle the carrot, and I was always a people pleaser because of that. I had a better relationship with my dad, but my mum was so young. She had my brother like 10 months after me. I think I was the helper. And she was 19 when she had me. So I think that's why I'm quite a doer and a pure people pleaser completely.
What's interesting is you're really aware of the elements of your parents that you've taken.
I've had a bit of therapy. Do you know what? It's one of those things, isn't it? But I've had some therapy, so it's made me more aware. I wish I was before. Actually, I had therapy. I wish I'd had therapy earlier on in life.
It's an interesting one. If he was a true entrepreneur, I mean, was your life a bit sort of like, yeah, it's great, or it's also great, as in sort of finance? Sometimes entrepreneurs can be, I'm going to bet it all on black, and it came up red. Oh, damn! Yeah. So we sort of start again and things like that.
Yeah, and that was my upbringing. I remember, my dad would either have like loads of cash or no cash. And my mum would just be, oh, can we go shopping today? Or she'd send me in the pub on a Friday to get my dad out of the pub.
Oh, right.
It's one of those things. If you're
he sounds the right character.
Yeah, he was definitely a character. Yeah.
How's that? Has that influenced your relationship with money? Going through
I was
periods
going to
where
ask about that. Yeah.
You've had, obviously there was money and then there wasn't money. Has it made you quite cautious around money?
Yeah, definitely. I don't check numbers. I don't sort of think about money. I'm very lucky in my job that money does just happen. Like when I get a new job in or something, I don't just look at the figures. I think of the challenge. But luckily, what comes my way does pay well, and that does help. My mum was an accountant and she was awful with money, like absolutely awful. Like left.
The irony.
Sounds like builders and houses, doesn't it? Or something like, everyone else's house is great, but my own house is rubbish.
Exactly, and that's why she never ever did my books. But for me to be comfortable is quite important. Yeah. Yeah,
our accountant, he's quite a wise old owl. And he has this phrase that money follows the event.
Okay.
In that he says you don't focus or think about the money. What you do is you do the thing you do really well, and if you do it well, then the money will flow. And that's kind of what you were saying around about the way, which is you look at a job and you say, I can get a really good result by doing this, and the patient's going to be delighted. And as a result of that, you earn money.
Rewarding,
but it wasn't a case of so where can I be making the money here? Which is a very different attitude
and
how you think about things.
And I have, I'm always, when I've asked for a pay rise at work, I'm going into my 10th year in the practice, I've never said, can I get paid more? I'm just like, how can I get paid more? So how can I bring my, the patient's money more, or how can I do more to bring more money in?
How can I add more value?
Rather than being like, I want more, because it's not quite a good thing. You have to do it. But I think you need to look out of the box a little bit.
Yeah.
On the people pleasing thing, you've mentioned it a couple of times. Have you sort of, now you're aware of it, do you sort of rein it in? Or is it something that you...
Do you know how many books I have on my bookshelf about how not to be a people pleaser?
Well, I was going to say, because it may. I just think you've mentioned it a couple of times, and it must be one of those ones that you sort of now you've recognised it in yourself.
Yeah.
Have you then thought, right, well, okay, I'm going to let people pleaser out of the box sometimes, and in other moments I'm not going to. And I say you must then have to learn.
And you can never change,
Yeah, because it's part of you, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually, that is me, and that's probably why I'm really good at my job. So actually, I do use it, but I do produce boundaries because of it. And that's why I've got books over there about how not to be a people pleaser.
So you've obviously learned that over time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always learning. I'm always.
Right. And what's your brother? Is your brother? Did you say you got a brother?
Yeah, so I've got a brother.
Similar personality or different personality?
I think we've got similar traits. He's a bit more like my dad. Like, we'll just do something absolutely crazy, and I'm like, "What have you done?" He's not as straight-laced as I am, but yeah, he's quite sort of private like me in a way. He is on our family, so he's inherited our family farm, and he's about to have a family, and he loves Shropshire, so he hates London. Right. He's like, "Why are you in London?"
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of yeah.
Yeah, so that works and suits him, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So from a professional point of view, what was your pathway through? Because obviously you're a leading health oral expert now, and lots of people will see you and think, well, Lottie's amazing because Lottie does all these things, and I see her everywhere, and she's got this amazing, profile and patient base and the practice you work in. But how did it start? Kind of where did you qualify, and what was that pathway through to where you are now?
So when I turned 18, I went to Portsmouth Uni, and this was at 18. I just unfortunately lost my father at 17. And I always wanted to be a hygienist. So I went straight for it, even though I wasn't ready. And I failed completely at Portsmouth Uni, failed everything. And I realised that it wasn't the time to go to university. So I dropped out and I came back to Shropshire, and I did some dental nursing because I still wanted to do it, but it just wasn't the right time. And I did some dental nursing for a couple of years and then reapplied and got into London. I hated London. I could never see myself in London. Got into Barts in London and was really shocked. I remember having an interview and I was shaking, and they were like, "Look, there's 600 people that have applied for this 8-person course. Why would we give it you?" And I'm like, it was the worst interview ever.
Is that the question they asked you?
Yeah.
How did you answer? What did you say?
I don't actually remember, but I know that I did the it was awful. I don't know how I got
You break down in tears.
Yeah, it was very stressful. And then I got in. And I had a lot of sort of, negative feelings because I'd failed the first time. I was going to fail again. But it was actually.
Were you older than the other people, Lottie? Would you think you were a bit more mature or something? Because it's interesting. I mean, 8 out of 600, and if you think you sort of bombed the interview, it's a real interesting one. As to why
top 1%.
What actually? Yeah. I wonder what turned it. It'd be fascinating to have a conversation with them and go, look, why did you choose me?
I know. I think they just want someone approachable. To be honest, I think they wanted someone that they could just talk to, and I can talk to anyone. But yeah, I was just really, really shocked to get in. Really, really shocked. And yeah, I went to university. I absolutely aced it because I just wanted it so much. Really wanted it. And then I stayed in London.
And did you then like London?
Then I liked London, yeah. I got rid of a boyfriend in Shropshire, and as soon as that happened, it was like these bright lights. And yeah, I.
Where did you live when you were training?
I lived in near Whitechapel. Interesting.
Right. Oh, okay, right.
And then I moved to Islington. So it all kind of slotted in. But then I was in Islington for quite a few years.
Right, yeah. And in many ways, because of the loss of your father, having that period where you came back and tried again probably worked in your favour, because as you said, you probably, that's a massive, I mean, it's horrible at any time, but as a teenager, that's just horrendous.
Yeah.
He must have been quite young. Was he? I've seen your mum had you at 19, so he must have been reasonably young.
Yeah, so I was 17. My dad was 39 when he died.
Wow.
Yeah, so quite very, very young, and it was quite a traumatic thing. We had to do CPR on my dad, And
geez.
it was quite a traumatic thing. So every year we do CPR training. It's like a trauma.
Brings it back.
Yeah, and it's funny when people go, "Oh, I could do this if I had a medical emergency," and it's like, yeah. But,
it's very different in the real world, isn't it?
Yeah, but do you know what? I think my dad's passing really pushed me out of, the world. Like, I just thought, right, I want to do this. I want to do so much more with my life. And it gave me so much more determination. And yeah, it's crazy really, because I think if my dad was still alive, I probably would have married like a farmer in Shropshire, and I'd have 4 children now. So
right. Yeah. And a couple of horses.
Yeah, throw them in for the mix.
And it's amazing, that adversity, out of adversity, even that, it's terrible adversity, but out of that comes strength. Yeah. It's a very common, in a lot of the interviews we've done, isn't there's something that is sort of almost like a crystallizing, galvanizing moment that sort of says, bosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that just sparks the change, and like you say, it's a horrendous situation, but that it really did kind of start to propel you forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of people may not be aware, but obviously as a hygienist and a therapist, you're self-employed, so you're responsible for your own business. And whilst you said, if you work in a practice, you want to make sure you add value, and if you want to earn more money, that's a conversation. But ultimately, you are a self-employed person. Yeah. Clinically, we've talked. You qualified. You've got your qualifications there. But as a self-employed person, what have you done in terms of learning more about the business side of what you do? Have you done any training? Is it just something that is quite intuitive that you've kind of learned through your father and your parents? How have you kind of developed on that side?
I think I'm very practical. I haven't done that many courses clinically. I've just always picked up and just gone. I've done a lot of training with sort of the instruments that I work with that I now actually train people to use, but I think I always put it down to, I'm really interested in people, and I'm always so like a perfectionist. And when it comes to the patient journey, I have literally nailed the patient journey. So everything is so structured, and I just want to give them, the best experience. And I think I knew straight away when I got a job along Harley Street so quickly after qualifying, like that was my first job that I had to like up my game, because these people are paying a lot of money, and for little old me who's just walked out of dental school, I need to do something that's going to wow them. Probably coming back to the people pleasing thing, but I think it's more about just reading a lot of books, reading away like psychology of people, like working out how to manage people and keep them sort of at ease, to be honest.
There must have been moments when you were in those early, I just sort of imagine those early days, months, maybe even years, when you think to yourself, bloody hell, am I an imposter? That was that imposter syndrome thing. Thinking, I've got these guys who are paying me, this amount of money, and I'm like, ooh. It's fascinating, really, because how you keep that in check as well.
Yeah, because some of the clients that I get in my chair are pretty like well known, some of them, and some of them I would Google, and I don't do that anymore because there's like this guy that was like been in jail for 3 years, the Russian mafia or something. But I was just like, I do not want to know. I do not want to know.
I'm going to be very, very careful.
And I think that's what people like as well. Like, I treat everyone the same, and I treat everyone, whoever they are, they get the same level of care, and I think people like that.
Yeah. I think sometimes celebrities, if you ignore celebrity, they really like ignored celebrity.
They love it.
Because they're sort of, I remember someone was saying that a lot of the guys like coming to the UK because UK people don't necessarily, might not be so much now, never used to disturb them a huge amount. They just go, oh, that's so-and-so. And people go, yeah, you're right. And that was it. They'd leave them alone. Whereas in the States, they'd be like round you like a flock of bees or something.
Yeah. But I like that attitude of treating everybody the same as well.
Yeah. And do you know what? I had this very sort of high-powered guy, like, and he was there with his iPad while I was trying to treat him. And I was just like, I'm sorry, you can't do that. And if you knew who this guy was, obviously I can't tell you, but it was like my nurse was just laughing after. She's like, only Lottie would be able to.
Did he take it?
Yeah, of course he did. It's interrupting me. I couldn't see the light, it was just, yeah.
But fair play to you for having the confidence to say, I'm trying to deliver the best job possible and you're interfering with that.
Yeah.
So
it's not safe.
I bet some people would
either. I mean, people do it all the time. And you just have to sort of say, but to that point of an iPad, it's different than a phone. And I said, look, it's not safe. It's distracting me. And he's just.
Well, so are you saying that people would not perhaps routinely, but it's not uncommon for people wanting to be on their phone while you're treating them?
What are they doing? They're just looking at emails or something because they can't be talking, can they?
There's this one girl that I have. I hope she doesn't listen to this, but she's a shopping addict. And even when I take intraoral camera pictures of her teeth, in the background, you can see Net-a-Porter on the background. We all say she's obsessed. She just scrolls the whole time of the appointment. I referred her to one of my colleagues and he was like, who's this girl? Like, she wouldn't get off her phone. I could see what she was buying for her underwear, her summer shop. Like, it was crazy. But people do it all the time.
Wow. I tell you what though, and you don't have to say anything, but do you get some really good gossip while you got these famous peoples in, they're just chatting? Obviously I'm not going to ask you to reveal any your secrets, but it must be fascinating. It must be fascinating.
I find out so much information. I don't know why, but there was a young guy that's actually with quite an older film star, and he was telling me the other day, and I already knew because I'd seen it on Google on Daily Mail. And I just pretended to not know anything. So I got all the information out. My nurse was just in the background, crying. Lottie, you're saying stuff that you already knew. And he was like, oh yeah, I've got it quite good at the minute. I'm staying at Claridge's. And I was like, what's at Claridge's then? And I just got all so now it's just, it's quite funny. And I still have this little stalk of them and see, but I just dread, breaking heart.
You could almost write a book, couldn't you? Those things that shouldn't happen to a vet or whatever. You should almost, in a way, if you kept all those stories, you could when you're in your dotage, suddenly bring out a book. It shouldn't happen to a therapist.
Well, I think there's the secret barrister and the secret dentist.
It'd be brilliant. What a great story that'd be. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
You'd have to change it, so it wouldn't be so fun,
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, but we are gagged
trying to work out who it is.
Yeah, that's the problem with that job. We can't say anything, but you have in your office, you have that, so it's fine. Yeah,
that's true, I suppose. I'd never thought about that. You hear this stuff that you can't tell anybody else. It would do you nuts. The only one you can talk to is your nurse.
Yeah, and
I've never ever thought about that.
Yeah, and I am.
If you learnt this stuff,
yeah,
you can't tell anyone else for fear of it coming out, because then they know where it came from. Oh man!
But also, whilst it's not a celebrity thing in our world, we see numbers on people who own businesses. And the stuff that we talk about, we don't talk about 95% of the things we do, because most of it's confidential.
Yeah,
isn't it? It's true.
And
it's not as exciting as that.
Oh no, it's not. But whilst it's their numbers, it also relates. There's often a backstory as to why those numbers are the numbers. Whether there's a divorce looming or whether there's a dispute of some sort. So I guess
we always laugh, don't we? We'll have to be careful what we say, I suppose. But over the years, that's probably a good one, isn't it? Over the years, we've seen very prominent dentists who portray this persona. But we've seen their accounts.
Yeah.
so we know that it might not necessarily be quite as much as you thought.
Words and figures.
It's quite fascinating.
Guys, you're going to lose some business.
No. Not at all. We're very discreet.
Remember, we are very discreet. Nobody will know who they are.
Discreet.
Lottie, you were saying
confidential.
You were saying about the iPad and the phone, and as years gone on, we've all become. They're like extensions of our arms these days, aren't we? And I know that you've done an amazing job with your thousands of Instagram followers in the profile you've built there, which has no doubt helped build your business, because people will find you, they'll see the great work you're doing, and they'll come and find you, and because you're in London, it's an easy place to get to. But one of the other things that's quite clear from your posts is you're obviously very planet positive with the stuff that you post about, and sustainability and dentistry. And where do you see, where is dentistry in terms of kind of the green agenda? How much does the dial need to change? Is it are we way behind where we need to be, or are some good things happening?
Yeah, I mean, we are way behind, absolutely. There's a lot more changes that need to be made, like, on top of us. So sort of the policies that are put in. I know that we have a lot of things that we need to be careful, because we need to protect our patients and their health and their life, their being. But it's, some of these, like, big companies, I was going to say one of their names, but they they deliver all these materials for us, and there's like a tiny little material in a big box, or there's just not really any thought from these big companies providing. So I think in that sense, they need to help out, and also the dental officer needs to have a look into it as well. There's a lot of people doing stuff massively, like the FDI have put in a lot of different checklists that are coming out. They've been working with a guy called Steve Mulligan, and he is sort of leading a lot of that, which is fantastic. Like, I love everything that he puts out, and they're doing some checklists for practices. I really believe that a greener dentistry is all in prevention, and actually the less dentistry actually done, the better. So I think preventing needing anything done is the most greener dentistry and healthcare. So I kind of really do push for that. There's nothing worse than people coming in with a bamboo brush that doesn't clean their teeth, thinking that they're doing something for the planet.
They're doing something, yeah.
And, some of these things have got 3 different materials in, but they say that they're greener, and they're not. There's a lot of greenwashing.
I think that happened with organic food in the early days, didn't it?
Yeah.
Lots of people stuck the organic label on food, and when you actually dug into it, one of the ingredients might have been organic and the rest of it wasn't, and it was effectively marketing. It's like you say, it's a version of greenwashing.
Ribena, remember Ribena tooth kind that really wasn't tooth kind? But also, the TerraCycle, all the TerraCycle stuff, I don't know if you heard, but a lot of it was found in the ground in Bulgaria, So they're saying that they're recycling these toothbrushes but they're not, and things, but actually, why was that found? And I think, there might have been some mistake that happened, but it can't happen. It can't. It ruins your whole branding, your whole name for what you're supposed to be standing for by letting something like that happen. So I know that's under investigation, and I might be completely wrong, but the fact that investigation is even happening just shows there's just not really much going on, and it's not really in a system yet.
But also, I think it devalues the businesses involved in it as well, because I think it's never been easier to get to the core of the culture of a business, and that business being transparent. So I think if organisations are saying we are doing our bit for sustainability and working towards a greener environment, when something like that comes out, it just blows away anything that they've said before or they're going to say. You disregard.
I was just thinking, I suppose, though, when you look at it, when I think we can say this, when you think VW Audi got caught for changing their tests to make their CO2s look greener, when you got these big, huge multinational companies, the answer is how much is genuine change, or how much is, as you were saying, greenwashing. It's got to change, isn't it? It's fascinating.
Those checklists you said, Lottie, was it Steve Mulligan?
Steve Mulligan has went over and did some work with FDI, and they're about to be released. I don't know. I think they're literally like on the cusp of being published. So that's
if you I was going to say, if you've got a link for them, if it's in time, we'll add them to the show notes. If it's the sort of thing that would be available, because that would be great to be able to share with people things that they could do to make their practice greener.
Yeah, definitely.
Because small little things, like every week I come up with a tip. So I nominate myself as the eco member at work. And I just basically, everyone at lunchtime today, turn your lights off. It's a whole hour of time. If you've got like 6, 7, 8 surgeries in your practice, and you can get 8 hours of light off in that practice, then why not? And it's just these little things of like reminding,
especially with the price of utilities.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's even economical now, isn't it? I mean, that's
what people need to see. It's not just
it makes you wonder whether because people are intrinsically sort of, there's a selfish and a lazy side to all of us. Whereas if
it's financial,
I was going to say, if it's just for green's sake, people might not do it. But actually, if people start turning their lights off, which is good for the environment because of the cost of electricity, it makes you wonder whether there's going to be some side benefits coming out of it. I remember seeing those photographs of, I think it might have been the Venice waterways during lockdown, when there were none of the cruise ships going to St. Mark's Square. You could see how clean the water was. And so there's always these kind of unusual benefits that come out of different situations.
I mean, it surprises me yet again the fact that people just leave their surgery lights on while you just think when you're at home you'd walk out and turn the light out. So
unless you're a teenager.
That's true. But that's another one. I'm thinking, cool. You imagine how many surgeries there are, and if that's the norm, is to just leave the light on, because actually why bother turning it off? It's just like mad, isn't it?
Yeah, but also with patients as well, is one of the things that I always put on a reminder is their toothbrush chargers. They keep them plugged in the whole time, and they
when you don't need to.
Yeah, like that is something that is just wasting away electricity, and also leaving the tap on while they brush their teeth. I mean,
my kids used to tell me that off. When they were at school, because I would have been a tap on man. And then the kids would come in and say, water waster, water waster. So now I've learnt that you turn the tap off when you're cleaning your teeth. Yeah, but that was my kids. That was my kids who influenced me when they were little.
2 minutes of water just going down the plug hole for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason.
But like you say, and it's how you get that message out so that we start to move the dial.
Yeah.
So that enough people start to see those small changes.
That's a small increments, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow. It's not all about making these huge changes, making small ones. And actually when you start, it just kind of keeps creeping up and up, and you actually start to enjoy it. I am a geek with it, so.
But also, I think the smaller changes are so much easier to incorporate into your life. When people start saying we need to do this really big thing, that's quite an ask for lots of people. Whereas things like turn the lights off.
Was that one a week you said, or one a day? Was it one a week?
What?
You as your green person?
I do, one a week, really. Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking, how do you think about it? It's 52 a year. Green ideas.
I also have to be calm, because sometimes people will try and recycle like paper towels or things that really aren't recycled, and I watch them do it, and I just think I don't want to be like the recycle police and cause some argument. But what I do is I'll put I do little signs next to the bins and just make sure that it's so easy. But yeah, I do this and then they'll soon realise.
Very polite.
Well, can I just say that's not very people pleasing?
The books are working.
That's one of your books. Yeah.
No, I do have to rein it in sometimes, but that's just passion. I can't help the passion.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Exactly. One of the things as people that we're good at is we're good at sort of celebrating success and sharing success. What mistakes would you say you've made through your career that didn't quite work out and has made you a better person today as a result of that?
Oh, there's so many things.
Okay, top 12. No.
I'm really not perfect, and I do have complete imposter syndrome constantly, and it really stops.
What, even now?
Even now, worse now than ever. It takes me probably double the time to do a webinar than it does anyone else, because everything has to be perfect, or I'm just so like that, when actually I could throw out double the amount of work that I do now and not say no to jobs from just not being like that. And it can get in your head sometimes that you don't even start a task because you don't know how to execute it properly. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah.
So I think things
it's almost analysis paralysis.
Yeah, but clinically, I've felt like at the beginning I thought everyone would love me. And then I had a few complaints, and I found that some middle-aged women didn't like me. They didn't like the fact that I was younger than them. and telling them off
Wow.
for flossing, not flossing, obviously. And like things like that, I felt like I got a bit like ahead of myself, thinking, right, you know, my passion would just come out so much, be like, right, this is how we can make your oral health like this amazing, when actually they just didn't care, and I didn't read the room. And I think, 2 of my complaints in my career, touch wood, I'm not going to get any more, which probably will happen, but were sort of middle-aged women that just didn't like me. The one hated me as soon as I asked her medical history. So I don't know how I could have won that. You know, when you sit down at the end of a complaint and try and work out where you went wrong. I just think I could never have pleased her. But there was one lady that I'm a little bit annoyed with, the fact that I actually asked the dentist that saw her, is everything okay? And he talks about her clinically rather than the fact that she's got huge anxieties. And he didn't tell me that. He just presumed that I knew. And but it did flag a lot for our practice. So we did start putting pop-ups for those people and, you know, things like that. So we did all learn from it. But
that's one of those classic ones, isn't it? That there's so much more going on outside the mouth than inside the mouth, isn't it? If you understand the person, then everything else will fall into place.
And I think that's why I've spent a lot of time sort of educating myself on the like psychology of people and how to manage people, and actually putting myself in their shoes. You know, some people just don't care. They want me to just clean their teeth, and that's that. They've, you know, they come to me just to sort of do a reset, and that's what I always say.
And are you okay with that now?
Yeah, massively. I do use that word quite a lot. I'm like, right, okay, so you've had a hard time, so let's just reset. And you know, like life's not been that great for me either. And I think sometimes when I've gone through really hard times, like I don't tell everyone about it. And I think, you know, they're not going to tell me about it. Like COVID's been quite bad for a lot of people. And I think in the fact of, you've got to understand that everyone's got stuff going on.
We always say to our guys, don't we, that there's always a backstory. So, you know, just one, you might never know the backstory, but be aware that there's always something going on, you know, and sometimes they'll tell it, and which makes you can then understand, and sometimes they won't. But there's always two sides. There's always a backstory about something that could be an experience they suffered 15 years before.
Sometimes people just don't know. They don't know what it is, the thing, so they can't articulate it because they just know that they are a particular way, but they've never kind of sat down and dwelled on it and understood
that's true
why they are that particular way. So it's very hard to deal with those people. Given all the things you've been through and what life's thrown at you, do you sweat the small stuff? The small things bother you, or are you quite a big picture person?
I think, do you know what, only recently, I think now I don't really, I do ignore more than I used to, definitely. But no, I mean, sometimes maybe not, but, you know, my attention to detail.
It sounds like work in progress.
You know what? I just do what I love. Like
Does it depend?
Yeah.
Does it depend what it is? Probably.
Yeah,
it's one of those things.
I don't hang out or socialise as much as some of my friends do, because I don't really enjoy doing that all the time. Like what I want to do now, I pick who I want to see now. I realise a lot more that life is really very short, and I just want to do what I love. And you know, exhausting clinics, if I work, I mean, it's so full on, and I need to come home and do absolutely nothing, and quite often
read a book, veg in front of TV or whatever.
Like, and it's one of those things where I've probably got a webinar to produce as well after getting home at 7 p.m. at night, and I realise that I have to give myself more downtime, so I'm really picky about what I do.
It's funny, I was talking to a dentist, it was about a year ago, and he said that he spent most of his 20s saying yes to things, and now he's in his 30s, he tends to say no to most things because he's worked out the things that he wants to do, the things that makes him happy, and the things that are important. And that kind of sounds a little bit like where perhaps you might be, which is you've got that kind of that priority list is quite clear for you.
Yeah, it's building those boundaries as well. There's people that you know, before COVID you'd hang out with all the time, and then you think, why did I do that? I don't miss that person. And I just think you're sometimes you're friends with people because you have been for years, but actually there's things there that are just not right. And it's like being in a relationship with a guy that you've been with since school, and you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and everyone's grown.
Yeah, and we have to grow. It's really important, and I want that person, to grow. So, sometimes it just doesn't work out.
When I used to work in a bank, we had this guy who was a brilliant man manager, and I always remember, this is a long, long time ago, and he said, how many friends have you got? And people put their hands up, and he said, no. He said, you'll only have maybe 4 to 6 good friends. Yeah. He said, everyone else is an acquaintance. He said, and the sooner you realise that there's some people that you can spend time and share your life and story with, then they're your friends. Everybody else is an acquaintance. And I think it's so true, because you can't service that many friends.
No.
You can't be there for them.
No.
They can't be there for you. It's like nuts.
But that's only really happened recently. I remember my 30th thinking, how many friends have I got coming to my party? And
right.
I crept on with life. I've realised actually it really is irrelevant.
Yeah. That's true.
I always think about who could you ring at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's kind of for me. That's like a definition of a friend. It's like if I had to ring somebody at 3 in the morning, who are the people I could ring? And when you whittle it down, there aren't that many people that you could ring and say, "I need your help," and they'd go, "I'll pop over." They wouldn't ask why. They just jump in the car.
All I can say at 3 o'clock in the morning, the amount of people that have messaged me to say they've got toothache or tooth problem, someone that I went to school with that I don't even speak to anymore, I'm like, I am not replying.
What? Really? That is nuts, isn't it? She works in dentistry. I've got a toothache.
Or people on Instagram, and they direct message you, and they're pictures of their mouths, and you're just like,
oh, nice. What's the problem? It must be like being a doctor, though, isn't it, really? I met one of my friends is a podiatrist, so he does feet. And he said as soon as you mention it's about feet, people go, I've got a problem. He said, so I don't mention what I am. He said, because it's just a nightmare.
I suppose that's the upside and the downside of social media.
Yeah, of being known. Yeah, it's true.
It's which is great in so many ways, but you're always going to get the weirdo that crops up as well, aren't you?
That must be quite hard as well, really, trying to work out people who really want to be friendly with you because of you rather than because of what you are. I always think that must be quite tricky for people that are known in the circle they're known in.
Yeah.
Who wants to actually be your friend as opposed to what can I get?
It's an agenda.
Yeah. Is there
an
opportunity for a leg up?
This is deep, man. Okay, come on, look at that.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be light-hearted.
It's been honestly, Lottie. It's been brilliant. I think it's really good, and I think what's really nice is you're so open and honest about where you've been, the challenges you've had, your family situation, and it's not been easy. But I think people will take so much from the fact you're so open and so friendly, and you've been so successful, and your outlook is so incredibly positive despite those things as well. And it's not everybody has their own challenges, but I think you being so open about yours will make a lot of people.
I said the fact they're not hidden, I think that's quite interesting.
I think it's important for that. Like sometimes I do hide things, and if I've had a bad day, but I actually realised that you've got to show the full you. It's so important, and actually producing some awareness with that is really important as well. So I mean, sometimes I hide it, but you need to let it out. Yeah.
We always wrap up with our guests in the same way. We have 2 questions that we'd like to ask you.
Dun, dun.
The first question is, if you could be the fly on a wall in a situation, when would that be, and where would you be, and who would you be with?
Oh God. That's such a good, there's so many things that I would do. I mean, look, it makes me sound like I read the Daily Mail a lot, I'm not fascinating about the Meghan Markle thing, but that first lunch date with the Queen after that awful interview must have been horrendous.
Oh yeah.
And I do love the Queen. Like, she is just amazing. But also, during COVID, the whole Sarah Hurley, the chief, there was so much silence there. And there was so many people let us down. And I'd just love to know what was being said when she saw all this stuff being said about her.
Yeah, what was actually being.
Do you remember that webinar? She did some webinar or something, didn't she? That thousands of people, we all logged on to see what she was going to say, and it really wasn't that interesting.
Nothing.
And it was like, and then she put her onto some other bloke or some other woman who was going to tell us about something else. Like, I can just imagine if you're looking at those stats, there's all these numbers, and then suddenly it was like, well, that was really dull. So everyone's signing off. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
What's interesting in your answer there, Lottie, is they're both about people, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're like, how do people react and how do people behave? That's the core of what we're interested in. Isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
So then the follow-up to that is, if you could meet somebody, who would you like to sit down and have a glass of wine or a bowl of pasta with, given the opportunity?
Do you know, because I lost my dad so early, I can't not say him, because, you know, like when you see people, a bit like you, Andy, with your son, it's like going to the pub together, or, you know, doing like those family things. And I just think it'd be really nice to see him at this age.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, that would be, but also second after my dad would be David Attenborough, probably. He's like a 96-year-old man that is still producing so much awareness for like a huge topic. And it's really sad, because obviously he's not going to last forever. And he's still working so hard for this planet, and the stuff that he comes up with, I've watched like all of his programs over and over, because they're just so full of so much information. And how long would I need to sit at a table with him and just get it all out? It would just be forever.
It'd be interesting. I wonder who's going to come after. Do you know what I mean? You know, because I can't think, when you were saying it, I was thinking, oh yeah, when he goes, I don't have a sort of someone there that would be like a climate champion. Oh, a climate champion. It's quite interesting.
He's been doing it for 70 plus years, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But I think what's incredible is whenever he says something, whenever he speaks at an event or does a statement, it blows up. Yeah. His content is shared everywhere, because he is absolutely revered as the person you need to listen to.
He's so respected. No one ever takes anything that he says the wrong way. Like, he's so respected by so many people. Is there really anyone out there that is that respected in the media?
Yeah, so I can't think of anyone.
Yeah.
You know, there's always some controversial like comments or something. But I hope Prince Charles doesn't pretend to be the next David Attenborough, because I can't deal with that.
No, I don't think that would work.
I can't see Prince Charles in a river, though, or something, up to his neck with mud or something.
No.
But also he's able to articulate things in a way that everybody understands it. There's some people who are deeply passionate about things, but they just don't have the way to present it where every person goes, I get it, I understand what you're saying. He's got a lovely style about him.
Yeah, no.
There's that bloke in the 80s or 90s, what was his name? Can't remember, grappling grape nuts. Can't remember his name, what he was called.
Oh, David Bellamy.
David Bellamy.
Yeah, David Bellamy. He was quite a thing for a while.
Yeah, but I don't think he might be dead. I don't know. No. Apologies, David, if you listen to this.
I need to Google that.
And you are still alive.
We'll have to have a look.
Oops.
Lottie, it's been a joy. It's been an absolute joy.
Thanks so much for asking me. It's an absolute...
No,
it's been brilliant.
Thank you for your time. We know you're incredibly busy, so we've pulled you away from patients or whatever else you were doing. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.